The Detroit Pistons get blown out by the Phoenix Suns as yet again another Western Conference team exposes the Detroit Pistons' weaknesses. We'll talk about it and break it down in today's episode, Locked On Pistons Podcast.
You are Locked On Pistons, your daily Detroit Pistons podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's the deal? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast. Per usual, I am your host, Khahil. I've been covering the Detroit Pistons for the last 4 years, been a credentialed media member for the last 3 years, and I appreciate all of you guys who make Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. Free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button to the YouTube channel, leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. I had to take a few minutes after the game to compose myself, so I didn't come on the podcast just ranting and going crazy. So I wanted to make sure I got everything organized for this one because I am very upset after this game. Later on, we'll talk about the questionable calls and decisions from JB Bickerstaff, which I think have shown itself again in back-to-back games, and I think in 3 straight games against Western Conference teams. Later on, we'll also talk about Jayden Ivey. 7 minutes. What's up with that? 7 minutes, 0 minutes in the second half. What's going on there? Well, let's just start with the weaknesses being shown yet again against the Western Conference team. The Pistons lose 114-96 to the Phoenix Suns. Very quick way to look at this game and figure out, okay, well, if you just wanted to box score watch and just say, okay, well, what happened? Easiest way to do it, look at the Pistons bench versus their starters. The bench was Stu, minus 19. Danis Jenkins, minus 18. Javonte Green, minus 13. Ron Holland, minus 17. Jayden Ivey, minus 9. Then you look at the starters. Duren, minus 1. Cade, minus 5. Tobias, minus 2. Ausar, minus 3. Duncan, minus 3. We'll talk about him in just a minute. But the starters, in a what was this, an 18-point loss? And an 18-point loss lost their minutes by at most 5. In an 18-point game, their bench got absolutely obliterated. So this is a horrible night for their bench. This is something I've tweeted about over the last few days. We haven't talked about it a lot on the podcast. But I've kind of arrived at this point when we talk about the Pistons' backup guard situation. The Pistons have a bunch of guards that have to play, but they don't really have a bunch of guards that consistently prove that they deserve to play. Ivy will have a good shooting night, and then he'll play poorly the next night, and he doesn't get to play. We'll talk about that later. Danis will have a really good night and then have back-to-back nights like he's had here against Denver where it's like, oh, yeah, he hasn't been great. Caris LeVert will have 2 weeks of looking good and then a month and a half of looking bad. They have a bunch of guards. Marcus Sasser, people want to see him play, but he hasn't been consistent. His shots had completely left him since the first game when he went off. Like, they have a bunch of guards that every other night someone's like, hey, this guy has to play, let's play him. When really none of them ever consistently play well enough to deserve their minutes. And, again, they have a lot of guards, but they have a lot of mid-guards. They have a very mid-guard room, to be honest, when you look at it. But moving past that, I just want to talk about that real quick. Moving past that, I said after the last game against the Denver Nuggets, I thought the Pistons played incredibly poorly and were lucky to get away with that win. Not a lot of people liked hearing that. In this game against the Phoenix Suns, the exact same process happened here against Phoenix that happened in this game against Denver. Same exact process that you saw in the game against Houston. It's the same exact thing happening over and over and over again. And again, 2 things can be true at the same time. The Pistons are currently the best team in the East. They're 34-12. They're first in the Eastern Conference. They're having a great season. That is true. What also is true is that they have very clear weaknesses that have continuously been exposed by Western Conference teams. Competitive, really good Western Conference teams, which, by the way, the West obviously has been way better than the East. They have way better teams in the East than the East in the West. And the last 3 times the Pistons have won against a Western Conference team that is considered a very good team, they have exposed them. And this is now back-to-back games Western Conference teams have exposed them without their best player, without maybe their second best player. The Denver did it without 4 starters. This game, they did it without Jalen Green and Devin Booker. They cannot continue to go this route of just saying, you know what, our defense is going to be so great, who cares about offense? You cannot just have no offensive shooting. The trio of Cade, Ausar, Duncan works. They are 34-12. It's obviously they work. That's not a crazy statement. But in order to maximize them in situations like this, especially in the playoffs when it comes around in a few months, and when you go against competitive teams like this and legit teams, in order to optimize them, you have to have the right pieces at the 2 and 4 position to eliminate how teams want to guard them and how they want to play them, and to take advantage of their passing, and take advantage of the fact they get to the paint, and take advantage of their interior presence. You have to have the right pieces around them. And in this game, yet again, they can't hit any threes. They shoot 6 of 29 from deep. 6 of 29. And there's 2 things that go along with that create an even bigger problem. Because of the fact that Duncan Robinson is the only shooter on the team, because he's the only legit movement volume shooter on the team, he has to play. He has to. You're already barely making any threes. You have to play the only one that's providing movement shooting, volume 3-point shooting. You have to. But then what happens because of that is you have games like this one where Duncan is hunted on every single offensive possession by the Phoenix Suns, and he dies on every screen, and they're getting dribble penetration after dribble penetration after dribble penetration, which, again, what does dribble penetration create? Not just looks at the rim, it causes the defense to suck in, and now you're kicking out for open threes. You have a problem because you don't have any other shooting on the roster that you feel obligated to play Duncan no matter what, whether he's hitting threes or not. He's not hitting threes in this game. He was 1 of 6. He didn't hit a 3 last game. But still, you feel obligated that you have to play him because there's no one else that you can play for him that replicates what he can do for the offense. And if you do play someone else for him, the offense will tank because they'll just dare you to shoot, and you don't have anyone that will make him pay. So now you have to take all the stuff that he's bringing defensively, even when he's missing shots, just so you have someone that gets guarded beyond the 3-point line. That's a problem in and of itself. If the Pistons could simply just have one other guy that maybe is a 2-way guy that can shoot threes and play defense, when Duncan isn't hitting, you can bring that person in, and you don't have to live with someone dying on screens every single defensive possession while they're also missing on offense. That's problem number 1. That got exposed in this game. The overall problem is lack of 3-point shooting, but that's problem number 1. Problem number 2, Tobias, we just got done talking about this in the last episode. When Tobias gets mismatches, when he gets mismatches, he can obliterate teams in the post. When you go against physical Western Conference teams that aren't switching, that have size, he's not effective. And this has been the case all year for Tobias. His only value so far this year, I'm not speaking to last year. Last year, he was very good for the Pistons. But for this year, his only value to the team are random post-ups against mismatches. He's not hitting enough threes. He doesn't take enough threes. He's not a very good rebounder. That's another problem the Pistons have been going into, by the way. Their defensive rebounding has not been very good. And the reason for it is that you have Ausar now at the point of attack so often. He's no longer off the ball at times like he was last year. He's on the ball so much, now he's taken away from the rim. And your weak side rebounder, aside from Jalen Duren, is Tobias Harris, who's not a very good rebounder. So now it's Jalen Duren versus the world on the defensive glass. And the Pistons gave up a ton of offensive rebounds in this game. They gave up 11 offensive rebounds. They only had 28 defensive rebounds in this game. They got out-rebounded like crazy by Phoenix. Phoenix has 47. Detroit had 37. So not only are you not getting the proper spacing that you need from the 4 position, you're not getting the proper overall game from the 2 guard position, where if he's not hitting, and I'm pleased with Duncan's season. I'm not overreacting to one game. Duncan has been overall very good for this team. But again, the fact that they have no other shooters on the team means when he's having a bad game, you just don't have anywhere else to go. You just don't have anywhere else to pivot. So now JB feels like he has to keep playing him no matter what. And for what it's worth, even with all of that, the starting lineup with him tonight held their own. They did their thing, even with the complaining about the defense, and they 100% was a problem. Even with that, he was able to make up for it with his spacing. And their minutes, when they played as a starting unit, they held their own. It was the bench that got destroyed. But I'm not going to ignore that that's a problem. But Tobias doesn't shoot enough threes consistently. He's not able to attack mismatches all the time. And when he's not, he's just not that valuable. He's not that great on the glass either. And he's taken a step back defensively. There was a possession in the second quarter I have clipped on my phone. I believe it was around 8 minutes left in the game, or in the second quarter. They swing. The Phoenix Suns get penetration down the left side. They kick it out to the right wing, and Tobias closes out with maybe the worst closeout I've seen of the year. It doesn't even actually close out to me. He closes out to the left of the guy, of whoever it was. I forget who it might have been Dylan Brooks. Closes out to the left of him, leaves the middle of the paint wide open, and doesn't contest the shot, and then allows him to just drive right past him, doesn't even move. He's just guarding air. I don't know what was going on there, but the Pistons have real issues. They have real issues. Their defense will hide a lot of it during the regular season. They'll probably keep winning. They probably will, and that's great because they are a very good team. They have been a great team this year, and they will probably still finish number one in the East. That is all fair because their defense is that great, and that can carry you night to night like we've seen all throughout this year. When you have off nights like this and the other team's hitting from three and your bad defenders are really getting exposed, this will happen. But what has continued to happen, and what I will continue to point out, bad process leading to good results does not mean you ignore the bad process, because most likely, more often than not, bad process will lead to bad results. And the Pistons offense has been bad process for a month now. For over a month, really. Last 10 games, they're 14th in offense. Last 20 games, they're 17th in offense. They have been getting away with their defense being fantastic, and it has. It absolutely has. But their offense has had bad process after bad process after bad process, and they need some more shooting. You don't have to be the Boston Celtics. You don't have to be the Golden State Warriors. That's not what this team needs. What they do need is to not be one of the worst three-point shooting teams in the entire NBA. They need to not just have only one three-point shooter on the team. It's not feasible. You will get exposed in the playoffs, just like they got exposed against Houston. Like I believe they got exposed against Denver, despite getting away with the win and Jamal Murray missing free throws at the end, and like they just got exposed against Phoenix. They have to address it at the deadline. There's no way Trajan's watching this and doesn't address it. It has to be addressed. Absolutely has to be addressed. Coming up, there's some other questionable things outside of just the roster itself and some improvements maybe needing to be made when it comes to getting some shooters. There are some questionable decisions from JB Bickerstaff in this game, and I have to ask the questions. I hope someone asks him one of these questions after the game because I'm puzzled by quite a few things. We'll talk about it coming up. There's nothing like being in an NBA arena. The crowd, the energy, the moment. Getting tickets, though, that part hasn't always been so simple. That's why Game Time has become the go-to app for scoring tickets fast without the hassle. It puts the advantage back where it belongs, with the fans. Pulled up the Game Time app, and you picked an upcoming NBA game, and had tickets locked within a few minutes. Zone deals stood out. Choose the section. Game Time picks the seats, and you save. You get great last-minute options, too, with NBA tickets showing up at solid prices. Everything feels quick, intuitive, and stress-free from start to finish. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. That's code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. And remember, it's GameTime.co, not .com. Head over to Game Time and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase with Game Time. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review. Whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on, that's another great way to support the podcast. The NBA trade deadline is basically here, and we want to give you a free month of our new Everydayer Club to help you get ready. If you need a group chat to keep up with the chaos, join ours. The Everydayer Club gets you access to a group chat on Discord just for Locked On Pistons fans, plus national chats where you can hang out with fans from across the league. You also get ad-free versions of this show. And if you sign up by the trade deadline February 5th, you can use code DEADLINE to get your first month free. Tap the link in the show notes to learn more below. All right, so along with everything we talked about in the first segment, there are a few things just independent to this game that I was very, very puzzled about. Very puzzled about. The first thing that has to be discussed right off the bat Dillon Brooks dropped 40 points. He dropped 40 on the Pistons on 13 of 22 shooting. He dropped 40 points on 73 true shooting. One of the most efficient 40-point games you are going to see. He dominated the Pistons. And if you go back and watch every single basket he made, I don't think a single one was with Ausar Thompson on him. I don't think Ausar guarded him for more than 2 possessions. The entire game, they had Ausar guarding either Gillespie or guarding Grayson Allen off the ball while Dillon Brooks completely destroyed them. And they had Tobias on him. They had Cade on him. They hunted out the Duncan Robinson switch. In the third quarter, they tried putting Stu on him, but one of the problems with trying to put a big man on the perimeter is that, the other team will realize that's a big man guarding on the perimeter. We'll just set an on-ball screen. He can't navigate screens because he's a big man, and now we'll just get easy shots, and that's exactly what happened in the third quarter. All of that happened, and not one time was the solution, put Ausar Thompson on Dillon Brooks. This is a game plan the Pistons have went with all throughout the year. They have decided to put Ausar at the point of attack point guard, and then allowed Tobias or someone else to guard the best player on the wing and just say, you know what, that player won't beat us. We'll just let him, we'll let him try to attack one-on-one, and Ausar will just take that other guy out the game. And at times maybe it has worked, but when a guy is torching you like this and you are resulting to trying to double-team Dillon Brooks, not double-team KD, not double-team Wemby, not double-team the Pistons started flat-out double-teaming Dillon Brooks. There is zero chance. Zero. There's no way that on your list of possibilities, double-teaming Dillon Brooks should be an option before, let's put the best perimeter defender in the league on Dillon Brooks. That can't be an option before that. It just can't be. That's insane. Insane. And I understand that they were hunting out to switch with Duncan Robinson. But that's the point of putting Ausar on a guy like that is because Ausar is probably the best screen navigating point of attack defender in the league. If they try getting switches, just tell Ausar to go over them, and more often than not, he'll get over them and avoid the switch. Just have that be your game plan once he gets that hot. I don't understand how you watch somebody go off for 40 and routinely get the matchup he wants, and not one time do you say, let's put the best perimeter defender in the league on him. Mind is blown. My mind absolutely is. I can't comprehend that. That's number one. Number two, the Pistons in the third quarter cut the lead to 3. They come out the gate. Their defense is flying. They're getting looks in transition. Cade is starting to feel it. They're getting steals. They're running, and they cut the lead to 3. And then JB Bickerstaff makes a mass substitution, takes Duren out the game, takes Ausar out the game. Duren, which was picked up on the broadcast, as he was heading to the sideline, was very upset about coming out the game. Looked at JB Bickerstaff and was like, why are you taking me out? He was not happy about coming out this game. They cut it to 3. And then JB makes that substitution. And the Phoenix Suns immediately go on a 16-4 run. 16-4 run. Instantly. And the game's out of reach just like that. It's over. Game's done. I don't know. I don't comprehend why he did this. That lineup of Duren, Cade, Tobias, Ausar, Duncan only played the first 5 minutes and 50 seconds of that third quarter. These guys are not 40 years old. They are not 38 years old. They can play 30 minutes. Them playing 30 minutes is not going to hurt them. These are 22, 23, and 24-year-olds. And yes, I understand you want to rely on your depth throughout the season, and that's fine. But in a game where your bench has been absolutely abhorrent the entire game, and it was getting destroyed to the point where you didn't even play Ivey in the second half, which we'll talk about coming up, your bench has been terrible, and your starters brought you back into this game, and you only played them for 6 minutes in the third quarter, and then got 3 of them out, 2 of them out. Why? What? Duren didn't even get to 29 minutes played. Ausar didn't even get to 26 minutes played. They can play 30 minutes. Duncan played more than both of them. Tobias played more than both of them. Duren was dominating. Duren was 10 of 11 for 23 points. He was obliterating the Suns. off the dribble, in the paint. He was killing them. What was the point? I feel like Trajan, I've said this before on the podcast, I still feel this way. I feel like there has to be a level of, we got to take the toys away and make a trade just to take the toys away. Because I understand playing how deep your roster is and playing your guys. But when your guys don't got it off the bench, you have a starting lineup, your three best players of Cade, Duren, and Ausar are all 24, 23, and 22 years old. If they need to play extra minutes to get a win, I'm sure Duren wasn't going to break down if he went from 28 to 31 minutes. I'm sure Ausar wasn't going to break down if he went from 25 to 30 minutes. Seeing how the game flow was going, I cannot believe they made those substitutions. And then kept the lineup in the game the rest of the third. Didn't bring them back in. Just let it run for the whole third, where they have not one advantage creator on the floor. They took Cade out. Once they took Cade out, they went 4 minutes without having one advantage creator on the floor. They went 5 minutes without scoring. I can't comprehend. I don't get it. I truly don't understand it. And the last thing I want to say was something I'm very confused about with JB in this game. We discussed this last week. I believe it was last week. It was after the Houston. I think it was last week we talked about it on the podcast. The Pistons were facing so many traps at the beginning of the year, the first month and a half of the year. I said this on that pod. Some stat account tweeted out that Cade versus traps were one of the best scoring offenses in the league for the first month and a half of the year. The Pistons were spacing the floor perfectly. They were consistently making them pay in 4 and 3 situations. A lot of that had to do with Jalen Duren improving as an overall scorer himself in the short roll. That also obviously has to do with his passing and Ausar's interior passing to each other in the paint when you get 4 and 3 situations. They were doing so great with that. And then in this game against Phoenix, and then in the game against Houston, and then even a little bit in the game against Denver, teams start trapping. They stopped doing it, by the way. I should have mentioned that. They stopped doing it after a month and a half. They flat out just stopped trapping Cade and just said, you know what, we'll just force Cade into mid-range jumpers. We're not giving them advantages. We'll just see if they can score that way. And their offense hasn't been as good since then. But recently teams, these Western Conference teams, had just said, we're going to trap Cade. And before, if you would have told me they were doing that, I would have said, okay, the Pistons are just going to obliterate them. They're going to get easy buckets. That's how they scored majority of the time the first month and a half of the season. And for some reason, it feels like the spacing principles have been completely lost. There were multiple times in this game where Cade's running a pick and roll on the right side of the floor. He gets trapped, and Ausar and Tobias are both on the right side of the floor as Duren's rolling. There's nowhere for him to kick to. There's nowhere for him to take advantage of the fact that it's now 4 and 3. That happened multiple times where guys were in the same spot right next to each other. Why is the team all of a sudden losing their spacing principles against traps? They have the personnel to destroy that. They destroyed it for the first month and a half in the year. Why all of a sudden these last 3 games against Western Conference teams, they're just forgetting where to be and they're just standing next to each other, not in the right spots, cutting into non-open gaps. What? It was very, very frustrating. Very frustrating to watch a team like Phoenix say that they think trapping was the right play against the Pistons when you've watched the Pistons destroy it majority of the year, and then all of a sudden they just forget how to do it. That was all the stuff I've mentioned. That was probably the most frustrating part for me watching the game, is that I've seen you guys do it. I've seen you guys for a long stretch obliterate it, kill it, to where teams say we can't do it no more. And now this is the 3rd straight game against a West team. I'm watching them not know where to be. And not spacing the correct way and standing next to each other. What's going on? Why is that something that's all of a sudden being lost? The offense, they should have been able to generate easy looks at the rim over and over again with the Suns playing this way. I don't understand how. What's going on? Whatever. Coming up, Jayden Ivey, 7 minutes. What's going on? 0 minutes in the second half. What is happening? What's going on there? We'll talk about it coming up. It's the last call for football on FanDuel. One final Sunday, one last kickoff, the final chance to get in on the action before the NFL season officially comes to a close. This is Super Bowl 60, and FanDuel is making sure you're right in the middle of it with a special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year. Whether you're backing the favorite, riding with the underdog, or building one last same-game parlay, this is the game everyone's been waiting for. This is where predictions turn into plays, stats turn into storylines, and every snap feels bigger. It's the perfect way to cap off the season and make the Super Bowl even more exciting from kickoff to the final whistle. If you're a new customer, bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Make it count, because after the Super Bowl, the season is over. Last call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com to get started today with FanDuel. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. Jayden Ivey only played 7 minutes in this game. That's alarming. Now, you know what? I'm recording this. How long has the game been off? 30 minutes? They're on the road, so I don't know if they even had any of the beat writers. I don't know if they even had any of the beat writers go to the game. Let me just check real quick. Yeah, I don't think they had any of the beat writers go. So the reason why I bring that up is because I wanted to say the only way this whole segment just goes out the window is if somehow, some way, Ivey got hurt and we just didn't see it. I mean, he was on the bench and there was no training staff to him. So I didn't see him get hurt at all. So, but I do want to put that out there that if he did get hurt, then all of this doesn't matter. I don't think that's the case. No one said anything about it on the broadcast. There was no training staff with him on the sideline. He was on the bench. But if that is the case, void all of this, obviously. If the Pistons are in a point, or if JB Bickerstaff is at a point, which, by the way, did you guys see that Stephen A. Smith called him BJ Bickerstaff? Like, what's going on here, man? What's going on with our national coverage? If the Pistons and JB Bickerstaff have reached a point in a game where they can't score, in a game where they can't shoot, that JB has lost so much confidence in Ivey, to the fact that especially in a game like this, specifically, a game where you can't score and can't shoot, and the whole idea of Ivey is he scores and shoots. If you're not playing him more than 7 minutes in a game like that, and he's playing 0 minutes in the third, or in the second half, I mean, what's the point? We gotta be honest at that point. If JB is at that, if that's where JB's at with Jayden Ivey, that in a game like this, he plays him 0 minutes in the second half, and what are we even doing? Like, what's the point of even having him on the roster at that point? What's going on? Ivey was 0 of 3 in this game. He missed a few bunnies at the rim and then missed an open corner 3 in his 7 minutes of action, and then that was it. That was it. That's what he got to do, and then that was enough for JB Bickerstaff to say, that's, okay, I'm going to go with someone else. And that speaks to Ivey's on-the-ball stuff has not looked good at all this year. But he's been a really good three-point shooter for the team so far this year. And my read on that is JB Bickerstaff basically said to the world, by making this decision to play him literally 0 minutes in the second half, JB Bickerstaff said to the world that he feels like if you're not hitting threes, I don't think you can do anything else for us. I'm just not going to play you. He missed 2 bunnies around the rim. That was shocking. Playing him 0 minutes in the second half, that's shocking. Really, really shocking. And I just don't see the point for either side to continue this relationship if that's where we're at this point. If that's where we're at, I forget the Pistons' point of view. Just look at it from Ivey's point of view as well. There's no way Ivey's sitting over there like, man, I can't wait to ride this season out with this squad. I can't wait to ride this one out. I love not, if I just miss 2 shots, now I don't get to play the whole second half. There's no way. There's just zero way. And I already talked about like a week and a half ago where I heard that he just hadn't seemed as happy or as whatever behind the scenes or whatever. Like this decision by Bickerstaff was pretty shocking to me. I was shocked to see this. And again, he did that in a game that Dennis wasn't playing well, Javonte wasn't playing well, Ron wasn't playing well, Duncan didn't play well, and all of them continued to get minutes in the second half. Ivey was the only one who didn't get any minutes in the second half. I mean, that's just the loudest way of a coach saying something without saying something. Their actions will speak the loudest words. So I don't know. I don't know what's the point of even continuing the relationship. Like if he's here past the trade deadline, I don't really understand it. If you are a coach and you can't play the guard whose whole selling point is he can score and shoot the basketball in a game that you need scoring and shooting of the basketball, and you just don't play him, what's the point? I don't get it. Let me know, comment section down below or over on Twitter at Khahil, where you guys are at with that decision from JB Bickerstaff and this overall game from the Pistons. But that's all I've got for you guys today. Thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. Free and available on all your podcast platforms. Hit the subscribe button on the YouTube channel. Leave us a 5-star review at our podcast platform you're listening to this on. And until next time, I'll see you guys later. Stay safe out there, and peace out, everybody.